Perth and the Peel region to the south of the WA capital have been plunged into a 4-day lockdown, joining Sydney and Darwin in restricting the movements of millions. The snap shutdown was announced last night by Premier Mark McGowan after an apparent second case of community transmission in Perth involving the highly infectious Delta strain of COVID-19. The move came as Northern Territory authorities extended a circuit breaker lockdown in the Darwin area until Friday over an outbreak among workers from a Central Australian gold mine.
That cluster has authorities in several states on high alert, with Queensland alone waiting on test results from more than 150 workers from that remote site. Let's get more on what's happening right around the nation, and we're joined now by James Carmody at a testing clinic at Osborne Park, Nicholas Hines in Darwin and Lara Himes in Sydney. Good morning all. James, to you in the West first. Take us through the latest situation there.
Michael, they're setting up this clinic behind me and a number of others in the city today, ready for another busy day of testing, following that news that came through that there has been community spread of the Delta strain of COVID-19 here in Perth. That came after a woman returned to Perth from Sydney, infected with the virus, and passed it on to a woman in her 30s at a gym, and then a man in his 30s who was at the same restaurant as her in Perth's north. Now, the Premier said the concerning thing is that these contacts were minimal or fleeting contact that has caused that spread of the virus. Here's what he had to say.
I acknowledge lockdowns are very frustrating, but they are a necessary response to the threat that we face. And they continue to be the best way to keep our state safe until more people can get vaccinated. We've had lockdowns before, but what's different this time around is the threat is specifically coming from the Delta variant.
So that concern has seen Perth and Peel plunged into a 4-day lockdown. People are not allowed visitors to their home. Restaurants and cafes have been forced to close and can do takeaway only. Pubs, clubs, casino, all closed. Events like funerals can only go ahead with 10 people, and people are being asked to work from home if they can. There's very few reasons why you can leave the home for an hour of exercise with two people from your home within a 5K radius, or to go and get vaccinated.
James, thank you. Nicholas Hines in Darwin. No end to the lockdown, sadly, for top-end residents as the cluster there grows.
Yeah, it's still a very new reality, really, for people here in the top end. The first time that we've seen Greater Darwin sent into lockdown because of a local outbreak. And today it's a long and nervous wait to find out if we have had community transmission from the mine outbreak. The number of cases still sits at 7, including 3 workers who tested positive on the mine, 2 others who went interstate. But there is now confirmed 1 case who spent 36 hours in the community over Friday and Saturday. And that's generated a list of exposure sites. The first time we've had exposure sites here in the Northern Territory. That includes a pub in Stewart Park and a number of other lower risk locations, including a bank, a bottle shop and a corner store, rather. The most concerning one is the Buff Club, a pub where the workers spent about 3 hours on Friday night and potentially infected up to 150 other people. And that's why the lockdown here in Greater Darwin has been extended through till Friday 1 p.m. Authorities still desperate to get it under control and forcing the delay of Territory Day, the one night where we can set off fireworks across the Northern Territory. The Chief Minister's promised it will be back later in the year once this outbreak's under control.
That's good to hear. Nicholas, thank you. And Lara, what do we know about the case linked to the Rose Bay Secondary College in Sydney?
Well, another case, Michael, of COVID infiltrating the education sector. Rose Bay has a population of 1,000 students. Yesterday, staff and parents were notified that a student had tested positive. And what that means now is that the entire population, inclusive of the staff belonging to that campus, will now go into isolation. That will be waiting until the next round of advice from health officials too. In addition to that, school the day before before, we also had South Coogee Primary School added to that list of exposure sites. There have been 4 students linked to COVID for that particular centre, and also the Emmanuel School located in Randwick, another case of COVID there. So there are 3 schools that are under the microscope. We do know that there were 18 cases that were recorded yesterday. The day before that, 30 cases. Now, of that 18 cases, the Premier Gladys Berejiklian said that 17 of those cases were linked. There was 1 case that was still under investigation, and of that 18, about a third of those cases were already in isolation. So some saving grace there, hoping that hadn't been, there won't be any community transmission within those particular cases. Of course, we're waiting on the numbers today when Gladys Berejiklian notifies the public on the update later this morning.
And no further reports, Lara, of deers and naked men?
Well, look, Michael, we did hear yesterday that news was unveiled by the police commissioner. It's probably one of the more unusual cases of when the infringement order was issued. Some naked ambition there by 2 individuals who had clearly no idea that they were in breach of the public health order.
I should have seen that one coming. Lara, thank you, and Nicholas and James as well, thank you both.